Hello everyone and welcome to Master Excel Now. Thank you for your support with Excel for Beginner classes. Today we are going to see how to work with pivots, how to create them, how to use a slicer, and then we will also talk about a few mistakes that we do and can cost us dearly. So before we go ahead and jump into it, I would like to request that you please share your comments as they are very important for us. Without further ado, let's get started with our topic, pivots.
So let's begin with our chapter for pivots. I have some data on screen, which is about some products being sold under certain categories in a store and the amount they have generated on that particular day. Usually you have a bigger data and you need to understand or analyze that data. So going row by row to see that is quite impossible for anyone. And to memorize it or to summarize it, it would become an even bigger task. So pivots are the way to go. Pivot is a consolidated information about your data, and it can show you a larger data set into a smaller view frame. Sounds interesting, right? Let's check it out. So in order to create a pivot, click on Insert, then click on the Pivot Table button here. The moment you do that, a box will appear and it has the table range. The table range is the range of your data and it is already selected. Then it gives you two options, a new worksheet or an existing worksheet. So if you need to use, for example, this worksheet, you can click on existing and then give it a location, for example, this. But in our case, I'm going to use a new worksheet and click OK. Now I have two different places that have been generated. This is called the pivot work area. So whatever information I'm going to showcase will come here. These are your options to use and manipulate data. Here you have all the headers from your data, which is this, the original one. And this header tells you what is there in the column. So here I have product name, and here is the category. So how is the product listed in that category? So let's first take, let's say, category and the amount. So now my pivot shows me that under what category, how much money have I made? I can change it. So if I don't need category, just uncheck it. And let's say I need the product name. So now it can go a little deeper and tell me what commodity was sold, what amount, and then it gives me the same total. This is the simplest way of creating a pivot. Now that you know how to create a pivot, one of the things that most of the people don't use is the recommended pivot. Let's see what it does. So if you go to insert, this here says recommended pivot. So if you read the text, once you hover over on that button with your mouse, it says, want us to recommend pivot tables that summarize your complex data? So Excel is going to offer that I am going to analyze your data and suggest you what pivots may work for you. This is the system analysis, and it can really go miles if you use it. So let's see what happens when I click on this. So I get a different box this time here. Now the system has actually generated a pivot for you, and it has suggested you can check the unit prices, some amount. We just created this one, and the count, customer order ID, that's the count here. So let's say I want to use this one for now. The moment I click OK, it will take me to a new worksheet and place this information. If I don't like any of these suggestions, I can choose a blank pivot table. A button is right here. If for any reason you find that the data is not correct, so click on source data and see if it is completely capturing your data from the first cell to the last cell. So in my case, it is. So click OK. Now, let's for now just take this one and click OK. See, here it has given me again the total commodities under category, and it has given me the amount. Now, let's try working with two different pivot data and see how it works. I click on pivot table again. It has the range, and this time I'm going to use my existing pivot worksheet. So I'll go to my pivot worksheet, select the cell from where I want the pivot to start, and then I'm going to click OK. So again, I have a blank pivot table and I have the fields. So what I'm going to do is this time I want to choose the category and the quantity ordered. And I'm going to change the original one into category and amount. So I'm going to uncheck or remove product from tell. What it does is it tells me how many books sold, which gave me a total amount of this. So now I have both of them selected and moved here correctly. Now, let's say I just want to see books. So I can click on the row label, the drop down here, unselect all, and just click books. So it gives me only books, but I have to do the same here as well. So if I just want to see books, I can do this. But if the number of items or the information is too high, this might not be a probable solution. Now, what we are going to do is we are going to use a slicer. So let me add a few rows on top by using the control plus. Now choose any table, click inside the table, and then go to Pivot Table Analyze. Click on Insert Slicer. So the moment you click Insert Slicer, it gives you the headers, and I want to choose my category as the slicer point. So it gives me books, clothing, and electronics, which is great. I want it in 3 columns. So here I can make that change. Once I have done this, let me place it on the corner, stretch a little bit. So this way I can see all my items, and I'm going to scale this up. So let's say I just want to see books. So it's working on this one, but not here. Now I will go ahead and click my second pivot table, go to Pivot Table Analyze, and I'll say Filter Connection. So what it does is I want to create my connection with the same slicer. So it gives me the option category, category sheet, and there is a checkbox. I will check it and click OK. Now, when I click on clothing, both of them will change. So Slicer can help manage multiple pivot tables at one time. They have to have a field in common that you're using in Pivot. And now I'm going to share two things about working with pivots, which can really save you a lot of incorrect data. The first one is we go ahead and right click on any of the pivot tables and choose pivot table options. Then go to data, and here it says refresh data when opening the file. So you click OK. It'll give you a message saying changes or to the refresh on open option also changes the option for the other pivot table report. And that's what I want. So I click OK. What this does is this functionality, every time you open a pivot, it will check if the data from where the pivot is coming, the original data, is the same. If there is a change, it will make a change here. The second thing that I wanted you to see the problem area is, let's say this is your data and one of these rows does not have any data. It's a blank row. So you're looking at this view right now. You go ahead, click inside the table and go to insert and say make pivot. So by default, it takes up the range. But what has happened is a little thing that you need to notice. It stopped right before the blank row. Pivot takes up range automatically as long as the rows are consecutively filled. It will stop the moment there is a blank row. So make sure there are no blank rows in your data. Otherwise, you're only using part of your data. This portion will get missed out. And once you create a presentation or you share this data with your team members, your managers, your bosses, it will reflect that you have used incorrect or incomplete data.
Thank you for your time. I hope you liked the information that we shared in the video. Please share your feedback and we'll work on it. With that, thank you. Good day.